12 cities disrupted in a week, thousands of officers deployed, millions spent just to hold the line.
They need to stop illegal migration into this country.
Streets boiling, police exhausted, nerves shot, and only then did the king speak, asking for unity in a country that's already stopped listening.
Authorities say 25 people were arrested.
Different cities, same scenes. Blocked roads, smashed property, crowds clashing, police rushing in late and leaving early because they were needed somewhere else. Officers were pulled from one area to plug holes in another, like temporary fixes on a system already cracking. And it wasn't cheap. Millions were burned just to keep things from getting worse, not better. That's the key part. There was no reset, no calm period to recover. As soon as one night ended, another city lit up. This wasn't a single protest. It was a constant pressure, day after day, with no breathing room at all. At the center of it all was anger over immigration, especially around asylum hotels. Far-right groups pushed the idea that these buildings were symbols of everything going wrong, and people ran with it instead of looking at policy or facts. That sparked the response. Anti-racism groups showed up, streets split into sides, and tension turned physical. None of this was random. The violence was pushed, encouraged, and escalated until it felt unavoidable. For the police, this stopped being routine crowd control very quickly. Officers were working long shifts, being sent from one city to another with barely any rest in between. Budgets meant for months were drained in days. Morale dropped as they stood against their own people, the ones they were meant to protect. More officers started getting injured, not in isolated scuffles, but in repeated clashes night after night. Senior police figures began warning that the system was close to breaking. Not because officers didn't want to do the job, but because there was only so much they could absorb. The uncomfortable question started hanging in the air. If the people meant to keep order are stretched this thin, what happens when they finally can't anymore? As the streets stayed tense, King Charles finally spoke.
Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organized crime, cyber attacks, and of course, irregular migration.
He called for unity, respect, and calm. There was nothing shocking in what he said. No one was angry about it. That was the problem. Most people barely reacted at all. In the past, a message like this might have slowed things down, at least emotionally. Royal speeches once carried weight, especially in moments of national stress. This time, it felt different. The country listened, then moved on. The unrest didn't pause. Protests didn't stop. Online arguments didn't cool off. The speech existed in its own bubble, separate from what people were dealing with on the ground. The problem with the king's speech wasn't what he said, it was when and how he said it. By the time the message came out, weeks of unrest had already passed. People weren't looking for comfort anymore. They were looking for signs that someone was in control. The tone didn't help either. The language was careful, polite, and symbolic. It spoke about values and togetherness, but it avoided anything concrete. For people watching their cities shut down and their streets filled with police vans, that kind of language felt distant. It didn't match the urgency of what was happening outside their doors. There was also a hard reality sitting underneath everything. The king doesn't have the power to act. He can't change policy, deploy resources, or enforce calm. His role is symbolic, and symbolism only works when people still believe in it. Owing to these reasons, the speech fell flat. Modern Britain isn't breaking down because it lacks unity messages. It's breaking down because people don't see decisions, direction, or accountability when it matters most. While the king spoke in symbols, attention turned to the government, or more accurately, to its absence. Prime Minister Keir Starmer was technically in charge, but many people struggled to feel his presence during the worst moments.
Last government lost control of the borders. We are taking power. The Borders Bill, precisely to his point, the Borders Bill.
Yes, decisions were made. Emergency measures were approved. On paper, the system was moving, but it all happened quietly through statements and briefings that never cut through the noise. That gap mattered. In times of crisis, people look for visible authority, not just functional management. Instead, it felt like the government was handling procedures while the public dealt with fear, anger, and confusion on the streets. Critics didn't accuse Starmer of doing nothing. They accused him of doing everything behind closed doors. And in a situation this tense, silence reads as hesitation. The result was a growing sense that Britain wasn't being led through the crisis, it was being processed through it. Even though Starmer holds official power, people aren't sure they trust him or the system he represents. Authority exists on paper, but belief in it is fragile. The Crown and the government now both feel distant in different ways. One speaks in words that don't land, the other acts quietly without inspiring confidence. That distance matters. When the public starts feeling that protection comes after procedure, frustration grows. People don't just want rules followed, they want clarity, direction, and a sense that someone is actively keeping them safe. Right now, Britain feels like it's being administered, not governed. The question hanging over everything is simple but worrying. Is anyone truly in charge, or is the country just moving through the motions while the streets spiral? The unrest isn't new, it's been building for years. Riots in 2024 didn't end, but carried forward, simmering online and on the streets. Fears about migration, economic insecurity, and distrust of authority didn't vanish. Each protest made the next one easier to organize and escalate. 2025 didn't create the problem. It revealed the already growing tension. What's happening now is the sum of years of unresolved conflict. The chaos isn't sudden or isolated, it's cumulative. Every night of unrest, every viral video, every delayed response added pressure until the system started showing cracks. Understanding that history makes it clear, Britain's current crisis isn't about one moment, one policy, or one leader. It's about a long build-up that no quick solution can fix. Pubs, social media, and public spaces are full of the same argument. Who should lead in a crisis? Some say tradition, some say elected officials. People debate whether Britain is rejecting the monarchy or simply facing reality. The common thread is the same everywhere. People don't want speeches, they want certainty, and without it, fear and frustration grow on both sides. Between authority and obedience, a dangerous middle ground is forming. When unrest becomes a regular part of life, disorder starts to feel normal. Once public order is treated as negotiable, escalation becomes inevitable. This is the most unstable moment, not the loudest protests, but the slow erosion of control that nobody can predict.